So I thought I'd make another video. And, these topics are always tough, but I think it's good to brainstorm to then hopefully those who are smarter than me. Oh, shit. Okay, I almost caught it there. Yeah, fucking... word, sorry. Should be cursing at his crucifix. Trying to believe in God better. But anyway, so I thought it was important for me to have a discussion about some disturbing topics. And some of this, I think most of this has already probably been brainstormed. But I was thinking about when this guy Skivel, this guy, it's like 270, lived down the street, and I thought, this guy, for sure, at least once, I saw him stop and I watched him, because you understand, when he came in, when he came knocked on a door, I always stood by the window just to look at him, and I'm just like looking at him, and every single time that I saw this guy, especially after I saw him come out of Frankie's house, I always was just staring at him, almost all the time. Like if I saw him, I would just be staring at him and trying to read him. And like staring at him, like he knew that I was looking at him like, what did you do? Like, I wasn't like accusing, but like, kind of like, what did you do, or what were you doing, or what part of this are you playing? It wasn't just like, oh, hi, Skivel, and I would say hi, Skivel, but that's how I felt about it whenever I was always looking at this guy. Like every time I went by the window, I was looking directly at him as he walked away the entire time, and same thing with Diana and Miguel. And you can pick up body language, what they're maybe trying to express. So I saw this guy stood in front of that house, and I seen Skivel walk by Diana and Miguel before. That I have for sure. Because there were Diana and Miguel, they used to always walk their dog every single day at the same time when sunset was going down. So right before it got dark, they would be getting into their house, walking from the park, and they always went down to the park, which is about half a mile down the road and around the corner. It's a big major park at the Josie Lane, I don't even remember the name of the park, Josie Lane Park on Keller Springs, right by the library. And they used to always walk their dog Princess, and it makes me think too why they named their dog Princess, and if they got that dog Princess before my sister showed up. And this is kind of the disturbing topics of what gets very cynical on a sexual predator, and how they're trying to justify it, and how they sort of blend. They want to blend into something so that they can get away with it because it's just survival. Disposing my sister and my mother, and my brother and me. So I seen this guy Skivel walk by his house and look over at this guy, and whenever Skivel and Miguel, when I saw them walk by each other, it wasn't confrontational. He just looked at him and just kind of looked at him it wasn't like there wasn't a mean confrontation. It wasn't like like I'm going to put you in your place confrontation. So he always showed up almost nearly all the time with his basketball, almost every time, and so I say this because he has his basketball and he's talking to my dad. He has his basketball and he's talking to my mom. So if he has it at his lower extremity, he can tell whether does this mother or this father or does anyone here look like they know I think I did something to their son. And I was trying to narrow things down, but I'm kind of sketchy about the memory about this because I still haven't refined it enough to be able to say that it did happen, for sure. And I say that this particular subject is when I say about Skivel on this particular type of I just forgot what I was going to say, thinking of. But anyway, yeah, I saw him stand in front of Skivel's house. and he just looked at him, and I remember him just bouncing the ball kind of a little bit harder than it should, and it looked like he kind of just looked over, and he was paying attention, and then he kept on walking, but Miguel wasn't outside. At least I don't think he was standing in front of my porch. So I always made sure that I could see when he was walking away, he was looking over at Miguel's house, where there was something that was going on. And what this plays to me is that he knows that if he did something to Frankie, or he's planning to do something to Frankie, he has to point the finger at this guy. He knows he has to, he wants to. But if he knows that if the information got to him, there's probably a lot of other people he knew, other people knew about it. Now, the reason I say that this is very suspicious is because, he's walking way down the street. He lives at the corner at the end of the house. It feels like my brain's hurting on the side. But the reason I say this is because Miguel would have had to know to make sure, because Frankie's not only being bullied by this guy, but by Miguel, because Miguel's the most aggressive person, and so is Diana. So Diana starts giving signals to Frankie, you better behave, or I don't even know that part. There's no information about that. How many times Diana could have put that aggression? Because I remember Diana, there was a few times where she never did this before. She walked by me and walked right by me and didn't say a single word, like walking really fast. And by this time, she was communicating with my family, my mother, all the time, and she was like pissed. She didn't even want to look at me. Like just walked by me like I was nothing, like really aggressive. And she was pacing like she was mad. I almost kind of felt like she wanted to do something to me, but she didn't say anything or flinch, but she was like walking really fast and heavy. And, I was right in front of Melissa's house. I was walking toward the end of the street where Denton is. But the reason I say this is because this is the kind of terror that what I would have been talking about, because Frankie, he's always in his cage. But the idea that Miguel knows that if he finds out, or Diana knows that this guy did something, he's now getting nervous because maybe someone else get caught. That's what he wants. So he has to bait the situation where he's baiting Frankie because of my mother. Because Diana then starts working the brain, starts training you. And this is what Mickey's a great kid. He couldn't have been, his parents, like Mickey, his entire life, he had to go to a Christian church. And I asked them, and I think I remember correctly, there was like for 6 months or for like a year, he went to a regular school, and then he transferred to an all-Christian school. So when he took their kid to an all-Christian school, the Christians, or the church, would have gotten involved because they want to help. Let's feel sorry for Teddy Bear Miguel and Teddy Bear Diana. Mickey was a really good kid. That one's really tough because they knew they had to do that to him. So you're going to be spending 30 years in the penitentiary, and then see what they're going to meet you in there. See, you're going to find out who you're going to be able to meet. You're going to meet in some real hardcore, rough, the meanest. They just rot in there. The police officers, all the people in the ghettos, and they wanted to throw dead bodies in there, or just a bunch of huge Rottweilers. And just in there rot and die, and they do die in there, just like worthless dead bodies. That's exactly who you're going to come in contact with. And they're going to put you in there with the ones that are real crazy. Like, when people commit real bad, I'm sure most of you know this. When you commit a really bad crime, like you get a knife, you stab somebody's throat, or get a gun, you're a shooter, or whatever, you decapitate people or some shit. They segregate, and they put you in there with those people. They put you in there with other guys that did horrific, like shootings are bad, but like if you were like cutting people up, like if you were stabbing somebody half to death, they'll put you in there with somebody that did the same thing you did. They won't put you in there with somebody who was a car thief or a massive drug dealer. You'll be in there with somebody, horrific. I mean, like the worst that you can, the worst, and you could have just stabbed somebody, and then you'll be in with some guy that got a knife and slit the throat of a 6-year-old girl. I mean, they'll put you in that shit. So if he raped, I know it's horrible, I know but it exists. You rape a little kid at 6 years old. Oh, you think you're a big boy? Oh, you weigh 250 pounds? Let me put you with the 6'5", 600-pound, bodybuilders. You never get out, But the big problem is the LGBT community, homosexuality. There's so much empathy for them. The judges, the police officers, the lawyers, because that's who's controlling the entire realm of the United States, and that's who's doing it. Straight men have such a low value of participation because we're always either, getting in trouble. But when it comes to correctional officers, when it comes to a lot of the judges and lawyers getting college degrees, the staging designers, the makeup artists, the entertainers, the musicians, for some reason it's very, very poor in the straight community. Very, very poor. Where you excel, like Michael Jackson, which is unlikely. Pianist, for some reason. I don't know why. Obviously athletics, but I think it's a breeding situation. It has to come with the culture that we live in. That we're the breeders in this world. And if you're not making those babies happen, and the gays know that you're the only ones that can do that, then you have to be sold too. You just don't know it. So, in this particular situation, I think it's important because there's a lot more impact that's going on with Frankie, and what this ends up happening is that they're tug-of-warring with the situation and manipulating because they know what's going to happen to Frankie. Because if this guy didn't do it and he's a hero, no, this guy over here is a lot bigger. And Miguel slightly looked at him. He didn't stare at him, and he kind of looked like, sort of kept on walking and didn't say anything. And I remember this particular type of instance when they were walking to the park, because they'd always walk by our house with their dog and Diana. Sometimes Mickey would go to the park, but we would always play out in the front yard where Diana and Miguel went to the park. And they went and got their exercise and their walking exercise. So I think it's important for me to say, because, this is what particularly kind of is very disturbing, that I'm trying to narrow down and get 100% whether it did happen or not. I want to say that Frankie was looking out the window when I mentioned about Esquivel, and this is a different time when he's not in the living room, and he's in the hallway, and I don't know if I said something about Esquivel, or I walked by Esquivel, or something. It was very close to the time of the incident when we were, within 12 months of that period, maybe 6 months of whenever we spoke into the living room, and I said, "Hey, what happened to Esquivel?" He would look out the window and goes, "Yeah, fuck him." And I want to say, I think he said, "Fuck him." Those were his words. And he was kind of, but slightly to himself, and then looked at me and just goes to his room, sort of. But I don't know exactly, because I'm trying to narrow that memory down, and I don't want to say something like that did happen. But to me, in my opinion, everything is pretty solid, concrete, but it's hard for me to say that he did, because I have to leave that door open, that maybe he didn't. But, I think it's important because it says more of what my mother went through, father, and the horrific events that took place with Frankie's life. Obviously, nothing can be done about it anymore, and my storytelling should have been allowed to be said when I was in my 20s. And I couldn't explain this enough. It's hard to go against the very weak straight community. Not to go against, but it's very hard because we are weak. The straight community is so malnourished in talents because we're just breeders. The same thing with the beautiful women and the way that we function in life. I don't know why it's such a lack in college degrees, such a lack of musical abilities at the extreme abilities. And we know the politics that play into every environment we're in, whether it's church, business offices, warehouses, politics in our family. We all understand that. So I think it's important, because I still believe something happened to Frankie. There's no way that I don't think, and it's upsetting because, it's all to blame on me because I didn't think of it earlier, say anything, or I was hiding, and it was none of those things. And that's exactly what it looks like. And you don't understand how I'm always trying to get resources and information. But hands down, you would have known that I was so aggressive with all this information. What do you think I would have done? And well, my mother's not doing anything, then that catapults me to move forward. Maybe something didn't happen. What were you doing over there in Leach's house? What was going on? Come here, ice cream. You know how like somebody gets in your face, like, and then you kind of like, and something, you're a little kid, your eyes kind of turn red. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Maybe you got mad. But there was something else that's even more important that I don't think I've ever put this on video. I'll make a drawing about it. Hopefully I can jot this down on my notepad and remember. Frankie. I'll have to make another video on this song.